Women on Wealth is proudly sponsored by First for Women, celebrating leading women.
This political activist found herself behind bars at the height of South Africa's struggle for democracy. Post-1994, she broke into the boys' club of the mining industry and today chairs one of South Africa's biggest gold companies. This is Women on Wealth, and I'm Nozipho Mbanjwa. It is the month of August when we celebrate women across all walks of life. So here's a happy Women's Month to you too. Tonight, we profile Cheryl Carolus, Chair of Goldfields and Biotuna Group Holdings. The Vice President of South Africa's Chamber of Mines, Khanyisile Kweyama, discusses the role of women in mining. And in Power Redefined, we profile manganese tycoon Daphne Mashile-Nkosi. Cheryl Carolus has transitioned seamlessly from politics to the corporate ring, co-founding and running her own investment company, Biotuna Group Holdings, alongside 3 other female heavyweights. I sat down with her to find out if she thinks we have reached a place where South African women are politically and economically free.
Very proud, Nozipho, of just the status and where women have gone in South Africa. Women were very visible during the struggle and we were quite determined to make sure that that continues afterwards. So compared to the rest of the world, I think we are really world class. But hey, we can't benchmark ourselves against the lowest common denominators, and so it's something we must remain vigilant about.
And as we remain vigilant, what do you think the new struggle is about now?
I think that it is just about consistently occupying the space we have and then obviously pushing the frontiers back, because if you look at, for example, the public sector is doing much, much better than the corporate sector. And I really think the corporate sector should hang its head in shame, because it's shocking how women, compared to the skills that we know are available and have been demonstrated in the public sector often, there's just no reflection in the private sector, and that's globally the case. Where I think we need to watch out for is I think we need to look at just the quality and the consistency and just making sure that now that women are visible, that in fact it becomes normal, as it were. And so I think we really need to keep on making women more visible. And for example, if people have panels, I'm shocked at how it doesn't occur to people to ask competent women in that space. And the first 3 people they often come up with are all men.
Yeah.
And so I just make sure that I say, what about this woman? What about that woman? And then, oh yes, of course.
So you've said that the corporate sector should hang its head in shame, and you're a prominent player in the private sector as well. How do you think corporates should be thinking about women, other than just the word of mouth that you've just indicated now? Is there a systematic, strategic way that we should be thinking in order to make sure that there's a good pipeline of women coming through?
You know, Nozipho, I think the challenge is that women often make themselves invisible. Women just underrate themselves completely. And it's one of the biggest battles I have, because I'm consistently looking for good people in the various spaces where I am. And I obviously make a point to look for good women, good people with disabilities, and it's about diversity. Because I think globally it's now acknowledged that the best performing companies are in fact companies that are more diverse, notably around women, but I think increasingly in South Africa, I'm proud of the fact that we're also talking about people with disabilities, people who are different from the normal.
But why are we holding ourselves back then?
It's just, well, I think something which is a good in principle value to have, and that is modesty. Well, I think women have an overdeveloped sense of modesty compared to some really incompetent men who prepare to give anything a go. Women just often would say, I don't think I'm ready for this. And it's just a false sense of modesty. And I would have to say, I wouldn't ask you if I didn't think you were ready for it and competent, very importantly. And then the other thing is that I think women often lack self-confidence, which obviously I think it's a vicious cycle, that if people don't demonstrate confidence in you, you know, it does mean you have to push so much harder And if you're then a modest person, like most women are, I think that's what happens.
We celebrate you now as one of the most prominent voices in South Africa. And surely, innately, you must have had some sort of clutches that you always hung on to that helped you make certain decisions and at certain points in your life. If you were to think of that, what do you always rely on when you make a decision that's potentially life-changing?
Nosipo, it is self-confidence, and it's a self-confidence that comes from how you were brought up in your home, and that's why I think parenting is a very important thing. My parents gave us a very strong sense of self-belief. We were 4 girls. But it's also about working at the things that you really like and getting good at it. So I spend every year of my life really thinking about what are the skills I want to hone, what are the things that I'm really just terrible at. And one of the great things about growing older for me is just the sense of knowing, okay, I'm really useless at this, so maybe I shouldn't even try it.
Yeah.
But I also understand myself a lot better. And I think it is about that, and it's not being rude, it's not being hard on yourself. So I think sometimes as women, we're also way too hard on ourselves.
Do you think it's easier for us to quickly list off our hands the things we're really bad at,
Yes.
as against listing the things that we think we're amazing at?
No, absolutely. And I think that it's something which women really should get better at, is actually recognizing their own strengths. And if they sit down and consciously think about it, it's actually quite remarkable how you have journeyed in life, the lessons you've learned, and the skills you've developed, and importantly, to never stop learning. It's always about learning new things, hard skills, soft skills. And so it is about being honest with yourself, but it's also about not being harsh on yourself.
Yeah. Let's talk about the investment vehicle that you've co-founded, Proteona Capital. How did that come about, and why did you feel the need to co-found something like that?
Well, I am with 3 very smart women, and I must say that's another important lesson I've learned in life. Always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, and you end up looking so good and smart yourself. So, but it's 3 very good, prominent women in South Africa who have achieved extraordinary things, and all of us have always been the first woman to do this, the first black person to do that, and they're trailblazers, and I love that. I love working with people who energize me, who push me, who challenge me, and who compliment me. And it's really, there's so few women who play in some of the spaces where we are in the mining and the resources sector, but also now in the financial services sector. And it's really about the fact that we know we're capable of doing this, and our background spoke to that and lent itself to that. But we also know that, and it's a commitment we have made, is that in these spaces where we're pushing back frontiers, no other woman should have to go through the unnecessary nonsense that we've had to go through to get there. So we've got scars on our backs from the journey. We carry them proudly as badges of honor, but it's also nonsense. And so we spend a lot of time mentoring young women. And in fact, we've all invested. So at Proteona, at our company, one of our big programs is in fact mentoring smart young professionals.
Mining is still considered a man's game, but are women running onto the mining pitch? Earlier, I sat down with the Chamber of Mines Vice President, Kainsile Kweyama, to get her take on the role of women in mining.
First, the mining sector was just thought of as this area where women will never go. So the fact that there are women in such senior roles and executives and even mine owners is saying to everybody out there that you can actually be a woman and have a career in the mining space, which was unthought of, let's say, 20 years ago. It's also bringing in a diversity to the mining industry, where people used to think all like males and all like miners, and now at least we can start seeing a mix of conversations around boardroom tables, around the mine space, and even underground.
Does that diversity necessarily translate into better earnings?
For women?
For the mining companies?
We haven't seen it as much here. I think if we think of Anglo-American specifically, we had a CEO, a female CEO as our global CEO, and we saw some improvement, but then we also saw quite a downturn. And there's a number of factors that could be contributed to that. You know, there was the economic downturn, there was that. So I don't think that analysis has been done. And I don't think there are enough women that you can probably take a good body of them and analyze the results of the companies that are being run by women and those that are not. So maybe we are not there yet.
Not there yet. And maybe if we look at the legislative environment in South Africa, the last 3 mining ministers, with the exception of the current one, have all been women. Do you think this has any way impacted into some of the empowerment we're seeing around women, or pieces of legislation driving empowerment in the industry because of that female leadership?
It definitely has, because if you look at the mining charter and see a focus on, in addition to leadership, there is also a women in mining focus. But if you also look at organizations such as Women in Mining South Africa, and you look at the various spread of the women in mining specific programs, those were put into place when the women cabinet ministers were the ones that were running with the mining charter. And I don't necessarily think that now that we have a male for a minister that will change, because the gender policies are policies of the ruling party. So we would expect to see that coming through. But we definitely have seen that there has been more focus. There has been a woman out there running and saying, you know, you will do this, you will do that. So leadership does matter, and I think that is the conversation we are getting to, that leadership by a female, by somebody who understands and will take up the cause of women. But having said that, the cause of women should not be only by women.
Yes.
It should be one that is embraced by males and females, so that we can ensure that it happens. That otherwise we will become a little body that is propelling the female cause, and it will not permeate throughout the mining sector.
If we look at the core of the mining business, at the very center is very hard and technical skills that are required. Do we have a strong pipeline to feed into the demands that the industry needs?
As companies, we have gone, and as Anglo-Americans specifically, we have put in policies that have a bias towards females. So from the level of our bursaries, from mentoring, from fast tracking, we have said it has to be 50% women, because precisely if you don't have the pipeline, then you're never going to see the people filtering through to the necessary levels. So for technical bursaries, technical programs, technical fast tracking in the engineering fields, we do have a 50% bias towards women. We even go as far as taking it to the primary school level, because we realize that by the time people come to university and have to make choices, they have already been influenced by several factors along the way. So we've put together a Techno Girl project so that we expose young girls to technical skills, to their mining specific skills, and hopefully they will then see that as they make their choices around engineering or geology or all the mining related fields at varsity.
Every week we bring you a woman who is flexing her power muscles on the global stage. Let's take a look at the woman named this year's CEO of the Year at the Africa CEO Forum.
Daphne Mashile-Nkosi is the first South African woman to own a manganese mine and has earned the title of SA's Iron Lady of Mining by breaking into the Boys Club. As executive chairperson of Kalahari Manganese, she's responsible for creating 30,000 jobs in the Northern Cape. She's also chairperson of the Women's Development Bank Trust and constantly strives to uplift women in her field. She was named CEO of the Year at this year's Africa CEO Forum held in Switzerland, which she says shows that African women can make their mark in the historically male-dominated mining industry.
That's all from Women and Wealth this week. If you want more Women and Wealth, don't miss the Women's Live Conference taking place this Friday at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Do remember that we like to talk to you on Twitter. Follow me at Nozi Pumbandra or at CNBC Africa. And don't forget that our hashtag is WOW410. Until next time, stay empowered.